The cabin was supposed to be our fresh start. A quiet retreat tucked away in the rolling hills of Willow Creek, a small town in northern Oregon, where the air smelled like pine and the world felt a little slower. It was October 2023, and my wife, Emily, 6 months pregnant with our first child, and I, Nathan Brooks, had just inherited this gorgeous, $1 million cabin from my late grandfather, Walter Hayes. I never expected to inherit anything. Grandpa Walt was a private man, and the will came out of nowhere. But as I hauled boxes through the front door, the hardwood creaking under my boots, I felt like we were stepping into a legacy, a sanctuary built by hands that had loved this land. Emily stood on the porch, her hand resting on her belly, her eyes scanning the misty valley below. We thought this was a tour chance to build a life. But Willow Creek had other plans. The trouble started the moment we settled in. I was unloading the last box when I heard gravel crunching underfoot. I didn't need to look to know someone was coming. Clara Monroe, the head of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, marched up our driveway like she owned it, clipboard in hand, her son Ethan trailing behind, filming every step on his phone. Clara's voice cut through the crisp air like a blade. "You're trespassing," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "This cabin belongs to Ethan. He took care of your grandfather for years. It's his by right." I stood there, stunned, letting her words sink in. "It's mine," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Grandpa Waltz says so." Clara's smile was thin, like it might crack if you pushed it. "You don't understand, Nathan. Ethan deserves this place. You're stealing his future." Emily stepped forward, her gaze sharp enough to cut through Clara's facade. Pregnant or not, she wasn't one to back down. "Show us proof," she said, her voice calm but firm. Clara's eyes narrowed, and without warning, she pulled out her phone and went live on the HOA's social media group. "Willow Creek, listen up," she shouted, her face flushed. "Thieves are stealing my son's inheritance." My stomach churned. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a power play. Ethan stood silently behind her, his eyes pleading for me to back off, but he didn't say a word. The tension was thick, and I knew this was only the beginning. Officer Daniels arrived shortly after, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Clara's hysterics. He checked my deed, flipped through the paperwork, and handed it back. "Everything's in order, Mr. Brooks. This cabin's yours." Clara wasn't having it. "This is corruption," she screamed, pointing at the officer. "You're all in on it." Daniels just shook his head and left, used to small-town drama. Emily and I exchanged a glance, her eyes burning with the same quiet fury I felt. That night, we thought we could breathe, but around midnight, the motion sensors by the garage went off. I checked the cameras and saw a red paint streaked across the cabin's side. "Thieves, get out." My heart sank. Then Emily called me to the nursery. There, in the crib we'd just set up, was a folded note in Grandpa Walt's unmistakable handwriting. "Beautiful room," it read. "It'd be a shame if something happened to it." My blood ran cold. Grandpa Walt had been dead for months. Who was playing this sick game? The next morning, Emily sat at the kitchen table, her coffee untouched, staring out at the fog rolling over Willow Creek. "That note wasn't random," she said, her voice low. "It's Clara, or Ethan. They're trying to scare us." I nodded, but something told me this wasn't just about the cabin. It was about control, and Clara was used to getting her way. We headed to the police station to dig into Clara's past. The clerk there, barely glancing up, mentioned a missing persons report Clara had filed for her husband, Victor, a month earlier. No one had followed up. Victor kept to himself, the clerk said, shrugging. No one's seen him in years. Emily's eyes met mine. A missing husband? This was getting weirder by the minute. That night, another package arrived, addressed to me in Walt's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet. "You're being watched. Stay sharp." My hands shook as I read it. Emily grabbed it, her jaw tight. "We're not waiting for them to come at us," she said, her voice fierce. "I'm going to Clara's, and I'm taking the camera." I tried to stop her, pregnant or not. She was a force, but I knew better than to argue. "Fine," I said, grabbing my jacket. "But we do this smart." Clara's house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. Ethan's truck was parked out front, and the curtains twitched as we approached. Emily knocked hard, and when Clara opened the door, her smile was sharp as a knife. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Emily didn't flinch. "Answers. Why are you trying to get Nathan arrested?" What's with the threats? Clara's smile faltered, but she waved us inside. The house smelled of stale coffee and cheap air freshener. Ethan sat on the couch, his fingers tapping nervously. Then I spotted Ida black bag tucked behind a chair. Clara tried to brush it off as old files, but Emily was faster. She grabbed the bag and pulled out a stack of tapes, each labeled with names of elderly residents, including Grandpa Waltz. My stomach twisted. What are these? Emily demanded. Clara's face went pale, and Ethan whispered, "You need to leave. It's too late." Clara's panic was palpable, her eyes darting to Ethan. "You're making this worse," she hissed at him. I stepped forward. "Who's they, Clara? What are you so afraid of?" She laughed, bitter and cold. "You think this is just about the cabin? You're in over your heads." We left with the tapes, knowing we'd just cracked open something dangerous. Back home, Emily and I called a meeting with the neighbors. We laid it all out, the tapes, Clara's lies, the threats. The room was tense, but when we played a tape of Clara coaching Ethan to lie about caring for the elderly, the neighbors' faces changed. Margaret, an older woman, spoke up. "I felt sick after drinking Clara's tea last month. I thought it was just me." Murmurs spread. The tide was turning. Clara tried to play the victim, clutching her chest and claiming a heart attack, but the paramedics found nothing wrong. She was escorted out, still screaming, "You'll regret this." The neighbors voted her out of the HOA, but her final words haunted me. "You have no idea who you're messing with." The next day, we found more. In Clara's house, behind a bookcase, was a safe. Emily cracked it open, revealing photos of elderly residents, each marked with a red X, and financial records showing Clara had siphoned off $900,000 from the HOA. A note confirmed Ethan was getting a cut. This wasn't just greed, it was a system. Clara had been targeting the vulnerable, and Ethan was in on it. We took our findings to the town records office, where we met Officer Daniels again. He'd been digging into Clara too, and together we uncovered a web of property transfers under false names. Clara wasn't just stealing, she was building an empire. But the real shock came when we learned Ethan's father, Robert Monroe, was tied to these deals. He wasn't just a pawn, he was a key player. Emily tracked him down at the airport, trying to flee to Mexico. We cornered him at security, his face pale as he stammered, "You don't know who you're dealing with." He was arrested, but he wasn't talking. Not yet. Clara's trial was a spectacle. The prosecutor laid out the charges: fraud, embezzlement, elder abuse, even murder. The tapes were damning, but her lawyer spun a slick story, claiming they were doctored. The jury wavered until Emily handed the judge a letter settlement offer Clara had received to take the fall for Ethan. "She's the mastermind," Emily said, her voice cutting through the room. Clara's composure shattered. The judge sentenced her to life without parole for the murders of Walter Hayes and others, plus 35 years for fraud. As she was led away, she hissed, "This isn't over." But it wasn't. Officer Daniels called us to the station with a bombshell. Clara was just a front. A network of powerful people, business owners, politicians, even someone named Evelyn Monroe, Robert's sister, was pulling the strings. They'd been using Willow Creek as a testing ground for a syndicate dealing in money laundering, smuggling, and influence. Robert's confession confirmed it. "Evelyn's the real power," he whispered. "She's untouchable." We gathered trusted neighbors and a few journalists, determined to go public. This wasn't just about Clara Anna Maria, it was about exposing a criminal empire. But as we planned, I couldn't shake Clara's warning. Were we safe? Who was Evelyn Monroe, and what would she do to protect her secrets? The quiet hills of Willow Creek hid a darkness we were only beginning to understand, and we were running out of time. So what do you think? Was Clara just a pawn in Evelyn's game, or did she know exactly what she was doing? Who else in Willow Creek might be hiding in plain sight? And how far would you go to protect your family from a syndicate like this? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you up at night.